This is an excerpt from an interview with Oliver Sacks and Chuck Close, conducted by National Public Radio in June of 2010. Chuck Close is a very famous artist who paints gigantic portraits. Both Oliver Sacks and Chuck Close were born with a condition known as face blindness. I have edited out most of the interview and include here only a short segment in which Chuck Close makes a few comments. However, most of this excerpt is of the two moderators who are describing how Chuck Close paints portraits even though he cannot recognize faces. A portion of the dialogue will refer to a painting of Lyle. The picture you will be seeing is not of Lyle, but of someone else, who you will ultimately recognize. Now let's hear the interview with Chuck Close.
And it's very hard for me. I don't know how to add or subtract without using the spots on dominoes, a visual system. I still don't know the multiplication tables. I didn't take algebra, geometry, physics, or chemistry. If the junior college in my hometown had not taken every taxpayer's son or daughter, I could never have gone to college.
Wow. So you're a wreck, really.
Yes. Everything in my work is determined by my learning disabilities. So, face blind, I'm sure I was driven to paint portraits by being face blind. That is, I know now that if I can flatten an image out and scan it the way I work, I can commit it to memory. And I have almost photographic memory for things that are flat.
And still.
Still, yeah. But
So being in space and moving around makes the face invisible. Fixing it makes the face
you
memorable.
move your head a half an inch, to me it's a whole new face I've never seen before.
Wow.
My approach is to be more outgoing, more friendly, whatever, and to try and charm my way through things. And I also lecture and talk all the time about face blindness and my other problems, so that people are aware that I have them, and they'll cut me some slack.
This charm offensive that you go on, what does that, like how, if you have no idea who you're talking to, what are the charm moves?
Well, not always is it charming. I didn't recognize a woman I'd lived with for a year. 2 years later, and there's no amount of charm that is going to get you through a mistake like that.
Do you think of what you do as an expression of the situation you find yourself in?
Sure. In every way. I mean, I have trouble in a global sense with the whole. But if you break it down into small enough bite-sized units, incremental units, then I made this big overwhelming problem into thousands of little more solvable problems. I've just found a way to, take my deficits and use them rather than banging my head against the wall.
Well, let me show you Lyle. This is Chuck 15, and then we'll do Chuck 16. So in Chuck 15, it's going to be a person you know named, who is Lyle?
Wait, now what's happening? What is this right here?
So, Jared, what you should do is you should imagine it's a detailed slide, and what you see is lots of boxes with almost like mirror-like shiny nuggets in each box.
Is this when you're looking at a Chuck Close painting really close? Is that what you're describing?
Yes, it's a detail. So it's the lower lip and chin of somebody who he calls Lyle.
When people stand right in front of Lyle's mouth, there's a little bit of confusion. You can't quite read it right away.
Well, the closer you get to something, normally the more information you get. But the closer you get to one of mine, the less information you have. You have information.
But when you step back, these very abstract, flat little cells suddenly turn into a very interesting face.
Well, here's what I don't understand, though. If he's blind to the face, how do you even build it up? Like, don't you have to be able to see the thing that you're building to?
If he can fix it, which the photograph does.
Oh, he takes a picture first.
He takes a picture first.
And then what?
Then he graphs it, so he makes it into lots of little boxes. It looks like a giant checkerboard. And then he goes into each checkerboard, and he then repaints it.
Oh.
Magically, when you step away, there is the thing that you can't see.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So he's able to see the details within those boxes well enough to be able to construct them, and then trust then what will emerge is a face.
Yep. And the magical part is not only do you suddenly get the reveal of the face, but with the reveal comes a sense of the person.